So in this video, we're going to compare and contrast the different implication forms, the conditional, the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. And you notice that I already have the conditional, the P implies Q column filled out because that's kind of common knowledge. We already have established that. So the thing to keep in mind is that conditionals have a general framework. If the left side, which we call the hypothesis, is true, then the entire statement is true if the outcome is also true, or the consequences, as we like to call it. So true implies true always ends up being true. If your hypothesis is true but your outcome is false, that is considered the false statement because you basically made a promise and then you broke it. You know, if you clean your room, I give you the allowance. Well, if you clean your room and I don't give you the allowance, well, then I broke my promise. That was false. You can complain to me. Okay, now false implies true, however, so if the hypothesis is not fulfilled, but somehow it ends up happening anyway, that's considered an okay consequent. Nothing weird happened there. Okay, if you don't clean your room, I still give you the allowance, everybody's happy. And the false implies false means I didn't make any promises and I didn't have to do anything for that. So that's also true. Now, looking at the converse. So again, looking at this, if there's true on the left and true on the right, it's true. True on the left, false on the right, it's false. So looking at the converse, Q implies P, I'm basically taking this first column, and I'm going to pick a different color here. I'll pick green. That means I'm looking at everything this way. So true implies true is still true. False implies true is still true. True implies false is still false. And false implies false is still true. So you notice that the truth table is similar to the conditional, but not quite the same. So that means these are not equivalent statements, okay, which we'll talk about in a moment. So I'm just going to remove that, and I'm going to remove these arrows here. Whoops, we're not going to need those anymore. Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. So negation of P implies negation of Q. How does that relate to what we're doing here? So negation of P, negation of Q. Well, I'm looking at the implication this way. So if I have false implies false, that's true. False to true is true. True to false is false. True to true is true. And just notice that the converse and the inverse seem to have the same results. So that's going to mean something in a moment here. Contrapositive, well, that means we're taking everything and flipping it in the negation. So we're now looking this way. So if you don't mind me just drawing my arrows over. So false implies false is still true. True implies false is false, remember. False implies true is true. Remember, we're going this way now. And true implies true is true. And interesting. So I'm going to highlight the ones that are the same. So the conditional, P implies Q, and the contrapositive, negation Q implies negation P, have the same truth table. That means that they are what we call logically equivalent. Interesting. Okay. So I'm just going to write here logically equivalent. And you also notice that the converse and the inverse also have the same truth table with respect to each other. True, true, false, true. So these are also logically equivalent, which just means you have two statements that involve the same letters, and if you input the same truth combinations into either statement, you end up with the same truth value for every combination. So that's where we're going to be leading to in the next section when we talk about logical equivalences, what can be replaced with what, and we're going to actually look at what the conditional means in another language, using different symbols. So this is where this is going. Kind of interesting stuff because it's kind of like algebra in a way. No matter what I plug in for this variable, for lack of a better word, we're able to say we end up with this certain outcome. So kind of interesting stuff. Thanks for watching this one, and check back for more.